Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
We got good starting pitching this weekend against a great team, and I hope that bodes well for us going down the stretch.
An all-around solid day. There wasn't anything flashy about today for us. We had good speed. Our execution was really strong on pit road. And of course, we caught just a couple of breaks there with getting the right pushes at the right time.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. We begin another busy week here on Sports Talk from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth and the Professor Tom Hayes with you tonight. Carson Mason behind the bulletproof glass, taking your phone calls, turning the dials. 800-956-7266, the number. Terrific way to start the show with everything going on. We've got Clemson baseball right now. They moved this game up from a 7 o'clock start to a 4 o'clock start. Tigers and Florida State, rubber game of their three-game ACC series. The Seminoles leading 3-2 in the fifth inning. Clemson just made it a 3-2 game in the fourth on a two RBI double by Pender. They were down 3-1. They were down, it must have been a one RBI because they were down 3-1 and they're still down 3-2. So this is wrong in the stat web page here. 3-2, Florida State leading Clemson as they play in the fifth inning. Great series over the weekend, USC and Florida, except for the rain interfering yesterday, we were headed towards a classic third game showdown yesterday between the Gators and the Gamecocks until the rain and the lightning came through and sent everybody home.
Yeah, I was waiting for them to say they were going to restart that game. Obviously, with the tight schedules of baseball, it's almost like the equivalent of what we would call a Major League Baseball getaway day. So you'd have to complete that game in a certain number of hours so Florida could get back to campus or whatever. But I just think it's one of those games you got to go ahead and play it on. Just play on. Even if it was Sunday night.
Well, the problem was South Carolina still has exams.
Well, yeah.
And they couldn't.
Exams?
They have exams. Yeah, some of their players had exams today, and they couldn't keep them there until, all hours of the night. And
never heard of wake-up exams?
Well, and Florida had to get on the road. And, as we were leaving the ballpark, it certainly cleared up and became nice. But, they had to look at the radar and make a decision that was, I'm telling you, it was first of all, the game was an hour late getting started because of lightning, right. 8 miles away. And then we got underway. We went to 3.5 innings, and it came back. They cleared the park. About an hour later, they let everybody back in. We were going to get started again about 4:35, and people were in the park, and the players were on the field, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a flash and a clasp of thunder. And you should have seen the people get up and run out of their seats to get out of there. And, of course, then they came on and said, leave the stadium. There's a threat of lightning, da-da-da. And then that was that. It started raining very heavily, and they called it after that. But very exciting, intense baseball in those 2.5 games. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut and Tom Hayes with you from downtown Columbia. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, USC basketball coach Frank Martin will be here. Talk about his recruiting class and his new assistant coach hire, which he tweeted out on Saturday that he was hiring former assistant of his from Kansas State who's been working at Towson last couple of years, individual with some strong AAU connections, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. Catch up with him on that coming up at the bottom of the hour. In hour number 2, 7:30, from the NFL Draft Bible, Rick Saratella will come back to put the wraps on this year's draft, which went very well from a Clemson standpoint. 9 Tigers taken in the draft, 14 players in all from the state of South Carolina, 9 from Clemson, 3 from USC, and 2 from South Carolina State. So that surge of talent flowing through the Clemson program, you can see it with the number of draft picks that they had this past weekend. So we got that coming up for you. A full recruiting report as well. Right now, let's head up to Doug Kingsmore Stadium, where they are playing now after a lightning delay up at Clemson, a game that was moved ahead start time-wise because of a threat of weather. Clemson scored early to go up 1-0. Florida State came back that 3-1 lead, and now Clemson has come back. Let's welcome in our good friend from TigerNet who helps us cover the Tigers, David Hood, who is on the scene. And how have the Tigers tied this thing up, David?
Well, they came into the bottom of the 5th down 3-2, but Chris Oakey led off. He kind of, I guess the best word for it is poked. He poked a double down the right field line, and the Seminoles got a 3-2 count on Seth Beer, and I didn't know if they had really pitched to him, but he rifled a single in the left to plate Oakey, so that tied it up at 3. Right now, nobody out. Seth Beer, he took second on the throw, and then on a wild pitch just now, he took third. So Reed Roman's batting with Beer at third, nobody out. The score tied at 3.
Well, see, the lesson there, David, is you just don't pitch to Beer.
You just don't.
Now,
he has, it's been kind of interesting to watch how teams have either pitched around him or pitched him carefully, especially Florida State in the series.
Yeah. Now, early on, let's go back. Clemson took the early 1-0 lead, and then Florida State came back with 2 in the second, 1 in the third, and really key for Clemson still being in this game, would you agree, was Pat Krall coming in relief of Alex Schnell and minimizing the damage there in the third inning when it could have been worse?
Yeah, he came on with runners at second and third with no out, and if it hadn't been for a wild pitch of his own, he would have got out with nothing scoring. But he has come in, and we didn't know if he'd come back in after the weather delay or not, but he did. He came back in, and he has set the Seminoles down twice now without any damage since the weather delay. So he's still out on the mound, and so far he's lights out.
Okay, I hear some clapping in the background. There's something good happened for Clemson?
Yeah, they actually just took a 4-3 lead. Roman had a sac fly to center field to score Beer. Now it's 4-3 Clemson, bottom of the 5th, 1 out.
All right. This would be huge, would it not, David, for Clemson if they could pull this out and win this series? They've lost 3 straight league series coming in, and to beat the Seminoles would be certainly big for Monty Lee and the team.
Well, it would be because of the way the ACC tournament is. The top 10 teams get in. The bottom 4 have to play a playing game, and right now Clemson's kind of in that 9-10 territory when it comes to the ACC. And if you want to make the NCAA tournament, you better make the ACC tournament, and they've got a really good NC State team coming in next weekend.
All right, David, thank you, my friend, and we'll check back with you a little later on.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. David Hood from TigerNet helping cover the Tigers for us here on Sports Talk. And so Clemson has come back with 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th to take a 4-3 lead on Florida State. 4, 6, and 1 for the Tigers, 3, 5, and 2 for Florida State. Clemson has left 6 so far, and Florida State has left 2. Back to that South Carolina-Florida weekend, and 5-4 on Friday. A game South Carolina will look back at and go, gosh, had it Right. Yeah, that's baseball, though. You got to get the 27 outs. I mean, the Gamecocks took a 4-3 lead to the top of the ninth, and there was a lot of second guessing about Chad Holbrook. But, he did what he has done all season long. You can't change your managing style just because of the opponent.
Yes.
Or because of the setting. I mean, you do what you do. That has gotten you to this point, and what they have done is use Tyler Johnson as the setup guy to work maybe the 7th, 8th innings, and Josh Reagan to close it out, and that's what they did. Johnson, who throws harder than Reagan does, they're different type pitchers. They went to Reagan in the 9th. He gave up a pair of solo home runs. It happens. They lose that game 5-4. Now they turn around on Saturday. And they win it 2-1. And Johnson, who threw 30 pitches on Friday, comes in and gives them a tremendous relief performance on Saturday to nail that one down. They didn't go to Reagan. They stuck with him in that particular case. So I believe it was mostly because he's a righty, and it was going to be a lineup full of right-handed hitters, except for one switch hitter that he was going to be facing in the 9th. So they stuck with him, and he got the job done. And then yesterday, through the 4 innings that the Gamecocks were in the field, the freshman Hill had a no-hitter. He'd allowed, I think, 3 walks, but didn't allow a hit. The Gamecock pitchers, they only used 5 pitchers in those 22 innings. They gave up a total of 14 hits. And the pitching was outstanding. Their defense was very solid. And then, the hitting against terrific pitching, they were able to scratch out really enough runs in the 2 games, one that they won, and they had enough runs going to the 9th on Friday if the pitching had held up and preserved the lead. So point is, South Carolina should feel very good that it went toe-to-toe with the nation's #1 team and didn't bat an eye.
Well, yeah, as I said before, I saw the way Mississippi State played Florida early on, and this was down in Gainesville. They're a tough team, but if you play strong defense and your pitching matches their pitching, you can beat that team. And as you say, it's baseball. Good teams find a way to steal a game. And how many times you're going to see guys hit 2 solo home runs in the 9th inning?
Yeah. Especially guys at the bottom of the lineup there. One guy was like a 160 hitter when he hit the home run, something like that.
Well, I guess if you're Josh Reagan, the only thing you really ticked off about is you wish if you missed with some of those pitches, you missed at the knees or the ankles and not up in their wheelhouses, because that second one was, as soon as he touched it, it was going out of the ballpark. It's just one of those things. And even then, Corn, the way that South Carolina had been so resourceful in that first game, you would not have doubted that they would have come back in the bottom of the 9th inning. They didn't do it. But this tells you these 2 teams right here can go neck and neck with anybody in the country.
They may see each other again, in Hoover or even after that. Gene Cone, what can you say about – you talk about being locked in. My goodness. The home run he hit flew out of the ballpark. It may have even crossed the road out there. That thing was tagged. Now, because yesterday's game goes down officially as a canceled game, none of the stats count.
Right.
So his 29-game hitting streak remains in place as the Gamecocks will take on Upstate Wednesday night here in Columbia. Then they go to Kentucky.
Well, the interesting thing about it now is when you look at that game sitting there and it's canceled and it's not made up, that half game could be a hindrance or it may be a bonus. I mean, suppose they stayed tied with, say, Florida or Texas A&M for the overall conference title. They couldn't with Florida, but with Texas A&M having, let's say, one more loss than they did just because they played
one more win.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
It could help or be a hindrance.
One thing we need to find out, this was not addressed yesterday, and we should have Chad Holbrook on tomorrow night, but are they going to try and reschedule somebody to make up schedule somebody to make up for this one game of their 56? You get to play 56, and if you can find an opponent who needs a game, you can make this up with another game somewhere. 800-956-7266. Back in a moment. Hope you had a great weekend. I know it stinks to go back to work on Monday, especially with the weather kind of dicey out there today with thunderstorms moving across the state. Some heavy rain. Hope you made it through the day okay, making it home safely. And with us here on Sports Talk, don't forget to stay with us when you get to your location. Do not leave us in your car. That would not be a nice thing to do. Take us in with you, either on your smartphone or on your laptop, or when you get inside to your home, whatever entertainment system you prefer. Of course, you can follow us on our website, sportstalksc.com. You can follow the live video feed at the bottom of the page and the audio feed in the middle of the page. Let's go to Cockett in Columbia for the first call of the night. Don't be fooled, Carson. His name is Cockett. Now, I don't know why he calls himself Speedy.
Well, it is Speedy. I used to run fast a long time ago, but I'm fat now, so I can't run as fast as I used to run. I mean, that comes from eating too many Wendy's burgers.
That'll do it.
Yeah, it will do it to you. I'm just giving you guys. I know y'all been talking about the draft is over with now. I'm kind of grading my Cowboys a C+. They didn't did no really big splash that I'm very impressed with. Definitely need a quarterback. Somehow Jerry just stood attached to that son of his, Tony Nono, have not improved anything for getting down to the NFC Championship. I think he's waiting on hope. But other than that, I'm glad they made it. I mean, I think our coach might be the coach of the year. But we're about 2 or 3 years, maybe 4, of being an NBA championship contender. What do you think about that, Celtics fan?
Well, not 4 years. I think we're closer than that. It's been steady improvement under Brad Stevens. Didn't make the playoffs his first year, made the playoffs his second year, didn't win a game, made the playoffs his third year, and won a couple of games. You like to win a series and move forward, but it's a slow process. They still have plenty of weaknesses in their lineup that have to be addressed in this draft and in free agency.
Shooters.
Well, shooters, yeah, but they still need a rebounder. They do not have a go-getting, consistent rebounding, rim-protecting type big man in there.
And I got to say this. In my opinion, Marcus Smart shot better in college than he's doing right now.
He started to come on in the Hawk series. He started to show his outside range, and I think he's, with Marcus Smart and Isaiah Thomas, that gives you a little something to build around there. Jay Crowder you like him because he's all heart and hustle and muscle and can occasionally give you some offense. But
how many draft picks we got?
A bunch.
Okay, how many we got? 2 or 3?
I'm sorry?
How many we got in this draft, this 2016 NBA draft?
Well, I mean, right now they got a bunch because they own the rights to several picks from other teams.
You got the Nets pick too, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. All right, thanks for the call. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday night. We thank you for joining us across the state. Phil Kornblut, Tom Hayes, with you from our studios in downtown Columbia. Let's welcome into the program USC basketball coach Frank Martin, who I think wrapped up his recruiting efforts for this class for 2016 last week. It's a good-looking class with a lot of new names in there. Coach, how you doing?
Phil, how are you?
We're doing great. And how was it down in Miami getting the key to the city and all that? That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was a heck of a deal there. I got caught off guard. I was down there to do a speaking engagement, and had some family and a bunch of people I grew up with that coached me, that I played with, I coached, taught me, just co-workers, and they were there also, and I just thought they were there for the banquet that I was speaking at, and here, when they announced me, then a couple of politicians in town got up there and presented me a key to the city of Miami and a key to the city of Miami-Dade County. And it was pretty neat because, Phil, that's my home, and that's where I was born and raised, and spent a lot of time trying to educate people down there. And it's always great to be recognized, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, how do you surmise this recruiting class that you have put together? 6 new folks coming into your program. I mean, basically about half a new team coming in. How do you feel about the group?
Well, I mean, it's I feel great. I really the guys that we wrapped up early. I thought they were the guys we wanted and targeted, and that's something important. We obviously graduated Michael Mendogas and Lamonas, so we needed to fill in on the front line, and then unfortunately the situation that we had at the end of the season there, which caught us by surprise, meant that we had to go fill some spots that we didn't expect to have to fill, but that's why assistant coaches are so valuable, because they're the ones that they continue the recruiting process. They continue to keep their eyes and their ears open as to who's out there and who's available and who fits who we are. And at the end of the day, are they good enough to help us win SEC games and give us a chance to compete for championships? And we felt we identified the right guys, and very, very, very excited with the guards that we signed, and the scoring ability there, playmaking ability, and then the size and strength that we got coming in.
I was able to talk to several of the guys, in a couple of cases just their coaches, but it seems like the one theme that runs through them all that you recruit is these guys like being coached. They like tough, hard-nosed basketball, and they like playing real good defense and kind of in-your-chest defense. So you try to identify, you and your staff try to identify those people that meet the specifics of what you need in your program. It sounds like you found guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Phil, we can pick up some recruiting newsletter and figure out who's ranked high and try and recruit guys that way. But that's not necessarily that. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of recruiting takes place in today's day and age, and that's why you have so many transfers. We were consumed with finding the guys that fit who we are. When we got here, we had to take a stretch here and there to take guys that maybe weren't completely the kind of guys that we would like, because we just had to find enough guys to help us win games. And but we've been able to now solidify our roster, our style of play, so we can be a little more selective as far as identifying the right guys. And we did that early, and then in the circumstances late, I thought we did that late too.
As you look at the graduation losses, Coach, obviously you got to have a ton of experience in your backcourt, but you're going to be kind of green in your front court. As you start off a season, if you had your druthers, do you like it the way it is, where your experience, where your ball handlers are versus being green in the front court?
If you ever give me the choice of do I rather have experience at the guard play or at the front line, I always take guard play.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you win and lose games at the front line. It's easier to adapt there because I don't want to say they don't control the game, but the ball's not in their hands the majority of the game. It is in your guards. Your guards initiate defense, initiate offense. Your guards, for the most part, are your decision makers, and so it's very, very important that we have experience in the guard spot. And the one thing that we definitely have coming back is a lot of experience there.
But considering the size that you are losing and the rebounding and interior defense that you're losing from this year's team, do you see players like Sadiq Keita and Mike Kotzer, the big guys, Kadeem Gueye, are those guys going to be able to come in and kind of pick it up inside where the holes are created by the departures?
We think so. I mean, and Mike Kotzer, you've got a guy that grew up playing club basketball in Estonia, so he's grown up playing against older guys, and he's prepared to take on the physicality that college basketball brings. And CD is he's a fifth-year senior. He's doing a PG year, for lack of better words, and so he's a little older, and he has some natural size and strength, and as we know through Don Staley, he's got that Philly toughness that it's so important. And and then KG Kadeem, he brings an intangible that we have not had since I've been here, and that's a big guy who's a elite shot blocker. He is one of those guys that just does not let people score at the rim. There's going to be challenges and growth for all those guys, but we're extremely happy that that we got three guys that we feel will be able to help us from day one, even if we return the majority of our front line.
Mm-hmm. Wow, many years ago, Gamecock fans thought they were going to get another KG, Kevin Garnett, so now they're going to get a KG and Kadeem Gueye, so maybe not the same player.
Not quite yet. Not as excited as I am about him. I remember watching the other KG play in high school, and he was something else.
Yeah, and went on to the NBA, of course, and had a fabulous career, Hall of Fame career. Getting Corey Holden, quite a coup there because competition was really stiff, and they said he was, they being the basketball guys out there, they were saying this is the best transfer available of the 500 and something transfers. This was the top guy. That was quite a coup.
Well, so him and Hassani Gravett, which were the two guards that we took late. Hassani got injured during his junior college season, so maybe he wasn't as exposed as he could have been. But we had to hold off a whole lot of people there at the end. He was just so excited about us and being from the Atlanta area, proximity to home, he was excited about that. And then when I called Corey, I saw Corey in high school, and I always thought he was pretty good. And when he announced that I got word that he was leaving, so I started kind of doing some legwork there. And then as soon as he announced, I reached out to him, and he said, "Are you kidding me? Coach Frank, I've been watching you for a long time, and I'm a huge fan, and I want to play for someone like you." And that's how the conversation started, and just took off from there. And it's good players pay attention, and some of the success that we've had here at the University of South Carolina, some of these folks are starting to pay attention, and it's contagious. And that's what happens when you develop players that you're in your program, like Michael Mendogas and Lamonis, and you also are able to recruit at a high level with guys like Senderis and PJ Dozier.
All right, talking to Frank Martin, may we hold you over for just a couple more minutes, or you have to go somewhere?
I'm okay. I'll stay with you a little longer.
Thank you. We'll put you on hold, come back to you in just a second. Couple of more minutes with Frank Martin coming up here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. We continue here on Sports Talk. USC basketball coach Frank Martin is our guest here for a couple of more minutes. So the 6 that you've got, is that it? Or could you – I mean, I know recruiting never ends, but in your mind, are you done, or could you add another player to your group?
I hope so. I mean, we had no plans of having to add 6, and having to go to 6 was a little bit more than what I expected. But I hope we're in a good place right now.
Okay, because I just saw a story by one of the national basketball guys, said something about a former UNLV player with contact from South Carolina, Of course, that could have been during all the transition of players committing and reaching out to people and stuff like that.
Well, Phil, obviously, I don't know which story that is, but one of the things that unfortunately I'm not for it. I don't like it. It is what it is. It's not a University of South Carolina problem. It's a national problem, which is in our sport transferring. You have to continue to make phone calls to everyone that's interested. Because you just, I've shared this story before. 2 years ago, Bob Huggins, right now, this week, last week of the semester, his student, unbeknownst to him, just got up and 11 minutes played shots attempt Google's name. They just got up and left with no in his effort. We don't know. We expect any. We don't expect. I'm not into recruiting more to get rid of the less talented player. I'm not into that. Never have been. Never will be. I look at things from my perspective and a very good player. So I wouldn't want anyone cutting me because they can get a better player. But they have to do what's right, and they have to follow the cultures of our program. And when they do that, then we're okay. Right now, I hope we're in the right place.
All right. Anything new to report on the suspended guys and their status?
Oh, that's still in the investigation. It's a fancy campus thing, and so we're still going through that. And I've communicated with all 3 guys, and we just continue to take one step at a time there.
Okay. Anybody going through any medical procedures of the guys coming back?
Good question. No, Sindarius is as he's ever. PJ is just building his body up. Dwayne is perfectly healthy. Justin is pretty good. Michael's the one that he came back sooner than he needed to with that groin, and he kind of tweaked his groin again. But obviously, he doesn't impact our basketball team. But he is one of us, and he's trying to line himself up for a professional career. So injuries are never a good thing there.
No. And schedule-wise, obviously some things have come out. The game against Syracuse up in Brooklyn. Anything more you can share with in terms of who you've lined up outside the league?
We've got two more games. Pretty much, other than the games that are guarantee games that where you basically pay an opponent to play here, where we don't have to return the game. We teams to go, and we're trying a good home and home starting here, another good home and home starting on the road, and we've tentatively agreed with a member of one of our nearby conferences, but that series will start not this coming year, but the year after. So we're all in the middle of it right now, and that's scheduling has become complicated. It's just it's gotten very hard to fit the right schools, the right matchups for the right reasons on the proper dates.
And you tweeted out Saturday a welcome to the newest member of your staff, bringing back somebody very familiar to you from your Kansas State days.
Yeah, we hired Singler, and Bruce is phenomenal. I hired Bruce. He was a young high school teacher, basketball coach at Bladensburg High School in the Maryland area, Bladensburg, Maryland. and I hired him at K-State. He was, I thought, a great mentor to kids, a great mind, a great enthusiasm at such a young age. And then he went on to basically live with Michael Beasley his freshman year or his rookie year in the NBA to try and help Michael guide him in the right place. And then a year later, he went back to high school. And then I helped him go to Morgan State, helped him go to Towson. And then now that we had an opening, he's earned the right to go out and recruit and get on the floor and coach. And he's someone that I have tremendous faith in.
All right, hang on one second, Frank. Hey, we thank you very much, and we'll be right back.
You got it.
All right, thanks again to Frank Martin. I know the line got a little chirpy there towards the end, especially when we were talking about scheduling. But Pro and I were just talking. It sounds like could be Georgia Tech, who he's talking about, a little home and home thing.
I could feel
here
it
in the future, but he said that wouldn't start next season, the season after. Yeah.
Anytime, I guess, when you think about it, if you're Frank Martin, obviously, since he's been at South Carolina, he's been religious about scheduling a game or two in the New York area.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's got a young assistant who's he's familiar with, who has ties in the D.C. area. And anytime you're in the Southeastern Conference or in the ACC and you get a chance to showcase your team inside the city of Atlanta, you take it. Obviously, the ACC games don't have to worry about that. They go into Georgia Tech and play them every year. But if you're South Carolina, you journey to Athens, but you don't get into Atlanta. So if you can get into Atlanta, that's why we were intimating that the team he can't mention right now because contract negotiations are sensitive, that you have a feeling he's talking about Georgia Tech.
All right, up at Clemson, Tigers still lead 4-3, getting late. Bottom of the seventh there. We'll check back in with David Hood in a little bit. Let's jump into recruiting, and we'll carry this over through the top of the hour break. But as you should know, USC over the weekend, commitments from receiver Sean Smith, 6 feet 170, Brunswick, Georgia. Running back Keyshawn Bryan, 5'10", 190 of Fort Lauderdale. These appear to be two high-level recruits in terms of the schools that were recruiting them. And that gives USC 9 in the 2017 class. Smith had 33 catches, 315 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for 509 yards and 7 touchdowns last season. And Brian rushed for 646 yards and 7 touchdowns as a sophomore, 824 yards and 7 touchdowns. Defensive end Trey Lawson of North Augusta Sunday named USC his favorite the first time in his recruiting process. He's named a clear-cut leader. Previously, he had USC, Florida State tied at the top. He says at South Carolina now he still loves Fisher and Lowing at Florida State. Florida State's a big factor. But he says, I love South Carolina. I hear from them about every day. So it's a narrow margin, but a margin nonetheless. He was not able to make it to USC Saturday because of his prom. He has been to USC in the past, also to Florida State, Clemson, and Tennessee. Not hearing from the Tigers. And he'll visit Tennessee again in a couple of weeks. He also plans to visit Coastal Carolina. Wren quarterback Jay Urich was in Columbia Saturday for the cookout. And he says the message to him was that he's their number one guy. And he said it means a lot. He likes the coaching staff. He picked up an offer last week from Southern Miss. He's also now hearing from Indiana, Wake Forest, and Tennessee. They have not offered yet. Maintaining an open mind about things, not ready to name a favorite or a timetable on a decision. We got a bunch more in recruiting that we will get to coming up here after the top of the hour break on Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Let's continue with the recruiting report while I tell you that Clemson continues to lead Florida State 4-3, and looks like they're going to the 8th inning up at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. 4-3 Clemson, 4-9-1 for the Tigers, 3-7-2 for the Seminoles, and Krall still on the mound for the Tigers. Certainly would be huge for Clemson to hang on to this one and win this series against Florida State. We'll check back in with David Hood here in just a little bit. Back to recruiting, still a lot more to do there. Linebacker Mo Burnham of Conyers, Georgia, was in at USC's thing over the weekend. USC has not yet offered him. He is a Tennessee commitment at this point. He's a teammate of receiver Justin Marshall, who does have a USC offer, but Burnham liked it. And he said that Lance Thompson's been talking to him for a while, and he's hoping to get a USC offer. And he said Georgia is one of his favorites now. Though he's committed to Tennessee, he says he still is open to other schools. Receiver Austin Connor from was back USC Saturday. He's been there several times. All the players that we contacted and heard from all kind of said the same thing. It was low-key, not very heavy as far as the recruiting and the football talk. It was more of a relationship building sort of thing. Anyway, he said USC has been one of his top colleges. He has not been able to narrow his choices down enough to make any kind of a commitment yet. No favorite from his top 5: USC, Virginia Tech, Vandy, Tennessee, and Georgia. No timetable on a decision. Defensive back Lummy Young from Westside also enjoyed the visit on Saturday to USC, said he saw a whole different side of USC, loved it. Duke has been his favorite over USC and NC State. USC commitment, offensive lineman Eric Douglas of Charlotte, and teammates, offensive lineman TJ Moore, who's been favoring the Gamecocks, and receiver Ryan Jones, who's committed to North Carolina. They were in on Saturday. Some others who were in Saturday: defensive back Trey Shaw, Ellenwood, Georgia; defensive end Brad Johnson, Pendleton; defensive lineman Tyrone Truesdale, Augusta; 2018 Xavier Thomas Wilson; 2018 defensive lineman Josh Belk of Louisville; 2018 offensive lineman Kavez Sherrard of T.L. Hanna; 2018 defensive lineman Kalesia Brown of Saluda; and 2019 defensive end Zach Pickens of T.L. Hanna. Athlete Jawan Burgess of Tampa will announce his decision Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Clemson, USC among the offers, but Clemson has had a much stronger position with him than the Gamecocks have. Miami, Florida, and Kentucky are others he cited this spring as making a strong push for him along with Clemson. And so we'll have to wait and see if the Tigers end up landing another talent out of the Tampa area. We've got a little bit more to share with you. We'll give it to you after the break.
Information. Information. Information.
All right, Clemson and Florida State, 4-3. Tigers trying to hold on. Florida State has runners on first and second, top of the eighth, with one out. Pat Krall, still on the mound for the Tigers, is not allowed a run since taking over, but it's in jeopardy right now. 4-3, Clemson hanging on. Now, what they don't want, of course, is for Florida State to hit a home run, but we want you to hit a home run with Founders Federal Credit Union coming soon to Clemson. Founders Clemson location will be opening up soon. So for now, check out their 4 on-campus ATMs and visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. All right, just a little bit more in recruiting for you tonight. We wrap things up from a busy weekend of football recruiting in particular and some basketball stuff as well. Quarterback Kamen Curitan of Lawndale, California, who holds a USC offer, was offered over the weekend by Alabama. He's been committed to San Jose State. And while getting the offer from Alabama is big, he says it doesn't change his commitment right now. His grandmother lives in Beaufort, and he plans to contact USC recruiter Travaris Robinson to get an update on his position with the Gamecocks here in the near future. LSU, Boston College, Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado State is also offered. USC Sunday offered 2018 linebacker Ricky Person of Franklinton, North Carolina. Offensive lineman Andrew Thomas of Atlanta remains a prime Clemson target, but he said Sunday, Georgia is his favorite right now. He's also looking at Clemson, Alabama, and Notre Dame, and he'll visit Notre Dame on June 17th. Receiver Trey Blunt of Atlanta committed to Georgia Sunday. He had a USC offer. USC Friday night offered 2018 defensive back Isaiah Bolden of Jacksonville. Also has a Clemson offer. Today, Clemson offered 2018 quarterback Emory Jones out of Franklin, Georgia, highly recruited player. In basketball, former Presbyterian standout 6'6" Deshaun Murray on Sunday committed to Auburn, and he'll enroll there this summer, have to sit out next season, have 2 years of eligibility. On Saturday, point guard Rakeem Felder of New York City signed his letter of intent with South Carolina. And you are now up to date on recruiting. Don't forget to check out our recruiting information online all the time, 24/7, 365, 366 in leap years. And that's at don't get interrupt when I'm in a rhythm here. SportsTalkSC.com is the website to check it out, and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC.
You mentioned a recruit from Franklinton, North Carolina, did you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know who came from there, don't you?
I sure don't.
The Bibby brothers, Henry Bibby, the guard from UCLA, and his bigger pitcher brother, Jim Bibby.
Is that right? Yeah. I didn't know his brother was a Major League Baseball pitcher.
Oh, yeah. It was funny because Henry was 6 feet, point guard, UCLA, those championship teams. And Jim Bibby was like 6'4", 225 pounds. He was a pitcher, right-handed for the Pirates.
And then Henry's son turned out to be a good player.
Yes. Arizona point guard, I think, on their championship team.
And they became estranged. I don't think they were very close there in the latter years of the young man's career. All right, there you go with recruiting. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to review the NFL draft with our man from the NFL Draft Bible, Rick Saratella. Stay tuned for that. Let's head up to Doug Kingsmore Stadium, see if the Tigers can survive this threat from Florida State. Pat Krall has done a great job so far. Did he get out of it, David Hood?
Yeah, we're headed to the bottom of the eighth now. Pat Krall came in the third. He survived a weather delay, and he just got out of another threat. Florida State had a couple of base runners, but we head to the bottom of the eighth. Clemson clings to a 4-3 lead here. They scored 2 in the bottom of the fifth after the weather delay to take the lead. Pat Krall has been lights out since then.
Yeah, what did he do in the eighth to get into trouble and then get out of trouble?
Well, I mean, Florida State got they got a kind of a dinker and a dunker and a line drive, and but luckily Clemson's defense stayed with it. But he got a strikeout and a ground ball there to kind of get out of it. And I don't know if he's going to come out and pitch the ninth. Monty told us the other night maybe he could be good for about 80 pitches, and I'd have to get back on my computer, but I think he's probably getting pretty close to that. I don't know if we'll see Riley Gilliam or maybe Alex Eubanks in the ninth.
He's at 71. He's at 71. The way he's going, his ERA is down to 0.70. I might run him out there for 9 or 10 more pitches at least.
You know what? I think I'd run him out there, and then I'd make him my Sunday starter next week.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, what's made him so good here of late?
He's just that left hand. He's really long. He's got that kind of a funky motion. But, the thing that's been good about him is he's been spotting his fastball, and then his breaking ball has just been really good. He's been able to throw that for strike. He's been able to throw that breaking ball early in the count for strike. And that kind of kept batters off balance.
All right, so the Tigers batting in the bottom of the 8th, looking for some insurance, and then we'll see what happens in the 9th. Many fans come back out after the weather delay to take this one in?
Yeah, you know what? It's not a bad crowd here. I'd say there's probably 1,500 people in the stands.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, and we'll check back in a little bit.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. David Hood, TigerNet, helping cover the Tigers for us here on Sports Talk. So they go to the bottom of the 8th. It's a 4-3 game, 4-10-1 for Clemson, 3-8-2 for Florida State. You take a look at the ACC standings going into today, and Florida State leading the Atlantic at 14-5. Then Louisville's 14-7, NC State's 12-7, Clemson at 10-13. So Tigers sitting there in 6th spot in the division. So a win here. Boy, 11-13 looks a lot better than 10-14. Can get that win this afternoon. They've got NC State coming to Clemson next weekend, and NC State, as David mentioned, and as I just mentioned, with their record 31-12, 12-7, another tough ACC opponent coming up for them next weekend.
You want to get over 500 is what you want to do.
Absolutely.
Clemson in the conference, and throw out this bad habit of falling behind early in ball games where you have to catch up.
Yeah. Let me pass along some other notes from today. Baseball-wise, USC's Braden Webb named the SEC Freshman of the Week for the 3rd time this season after that 2-1 win over Florida on Saturday. He allowed the 1 run on 5 hits. He walked 3, and he had 7 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings. He leads the league in wins. He's the only SEC pitcher this year to win 6 league games. His 62 strikeouts in 7 SEC games also are the most by a pitcher in the conference. He has been nothing short of spectacular all season long, and is one of the reasons why when you look ahead to next year, though you're not ready to forget about this year, but the pitching that South Carolina will have next year could be unparalleled. They could have the kind of pitching that Florida has this year. They're going to be loaded from top to bottom on the pitching staff next year, assuming everybody that nobody suffers any arm injuries or things of that nature. They can stay healthy. I think for the most part, their key pitchers are all going to be coming back. They still have more eligibility to go. As far as the polls this week, Florida remains number 1 in the major polls. Collegiate baseball, Baseball America, D1 baseball. They're 37-7. USC's 34-9. USC is 2nd in collegiate baseball, 6th in D1 baseball, and 7th in Baseball America. Coastal Carolina's 23rd in D1 baseball, 25th in collegiate baseball. They were swept by Georgia Tech over the weekend. And had a chance to, let's see, the Saturday game, they were up 8-5, I think it was, going to the bottom of the 9th. And Georgia Tech scored 4 runs to win 9-8. That's just, it's crusher. And especially when you're Coastal and you're trying to nail down home field, trying to get a regional. That's the kind of series they really could have helped themselves with a better showing than going 0-3. So they have Liberty coming up for them this week. They're in the midst, Coastal Carolina is, they're in the midst of something like a 9-game road trip. So it did not get off on a good start with that visit to Atlanta. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork, powered by soy. If you want to jump on the program, 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @sportstalksc. That's how you can reach us. Clemson looking for that insurance run or runs in the bottom of the eighth. Tigers have a couple on and one out in the bottom of the eighth. So that would be nice for them if they can get a couple of runs in. And as I am speaking, well, not as I'm speaking because it's already happened, but just a moment ago, prior to me speaking, Beer doubled down the left field line, 2 RBIs. It's a 6-3 Clemson lead now over Florida State.
And they still
batting. Yeah, they pitched to him again. You know, that guy's not very wise to pitch to him. Let's see. Today, Beer now is 2 for 3, 3 RBIs, his batting average, and 2 walks. So he's been on base 4 times. He's got 3 RBIs, a double. He has scored a run. His batting average is up to 419.
See, if you're of age, it's okay to go to a restaurant or maybe a pizza parlor and order a pitcher of beer. But if you're a pitcher, you shouldn't throw the beer.
Yeah. Well said. I don't know. I can't speak for Monty Lee. I don't know the condition of Pat Krall and how his arm's feeling right now, but I'd be very, very tempted to run him out there in the ninth. Go ahead and try and close this thing out.
Just tell him you got one batter. Get the first batter out, get the 2 and we go home.
Yeah.
If you don't get the first batter, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah. All right, so things are looking good there for the Tigers. Let's see, a couple of other notes to pass along from Auburn. 4 sophomore football players arrested Saturday night. Possession of marijuana. Defensive end, Byron Cowart. Defensive back, Carlton Davis. Receiver, Ryan Davis. Cornerback, Jeremiah Denson. Charged with possession of marijuana in the second degree. That's a misdemeanor written for personal use possession. So there you go. Wonder if any of these guys will be suspended for the season opener, which will be against Clemson.
No.
Yeah. Probably not. They might face some what we call internal punishment inside the program. Let's see. Former USC running back Sean Carson invited to the rookie tryout camp with the Buffalo Bills. So good for him. He will join other former Gamecocks as free agents trying out for teams. Running back Brandon Wiles with the Falcons, safety Isaiah Johnson with the Bucks, defensive tackle Gerald Dixon Jr. with the Falcons. And, of course, the Gamecocks had 3 others taken in the draft. And let's see, former Gamecock basketball player Eric Cobb has landed at the Chipola Junior College down in Florida, which is also where former Gamecock guard Jamal Gregory ended up. That's where they will try to resurrect their careers. We'll be right back. what does a draftnik do when the draft is over? I guess he starts looking ahead to the next draft. Boy, what a wild weekend it was around the NFL as they had the annual draft. And now, of course, people are evaluating and grading and critiquing and praising and criticizing all of that after all those hours of watching film and working out players. Did you take the right player? Is he going to become a starter for you? Is he going to become an all-pro, et cetera, et cetera? You know, like everything else, only time will tell. Let's welcome in Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible, our new NFL draft friend here on Sports Talk. Rick, how you doing?
Oh, doing good. Just letting that draft dust settle and turning the page. Looking forward to 2017. But time to break down and give some grades, I guess, for the 2016 draft.
So, in your opinion, who did the best and who did the worst?
Well, I mean, you know, I see Jacksonville getting a lot of praise. It's hard to argue that they did not do a good job. I mean, you talk about guys like Jalen Ramsey and coming back with Miles Jack in the second round. Some people thought they might have selected him in the first round. So whether or not he's going to need a microfracture surgery down the road, you hear he might be a 3-4 year player. Well, hey, if you get 3-4 years out of any of your draft picks, I consider that a success. And then you talk about they beef up that defensive line. They take a guy like Yannick Ngakoue in the third round, one of the top sack rushers in the nation, and then Sheldon Day in the fourth round, who, you know, I wouldn't have had a problem if those guys actually flip-flopped 3 and 4, but Sheldon Day, a guy, and I think, you know, we saw DJ Reader kind of slide too because of the depth in this year's defensive tackle class, but they really did a wonderful job. And then you think about how they added Malik Jackson in free agency. Suddenly they're contenders, you know, favorites to win that division. In terms of, you know, teams that lost, you know, I know the Cleveland Browns had a ton of picks. They stockpiled selections. They played money ball. But at the end of the day, I see a team that still doesn't have a franchise quarterback. So while it's great to have a lot of draft picks, you know, the selection of Cody Kessler I felt was a little bit too high. He really struggled to read through his progressions, has a you know, long ball issues. And quite honestly, you don't know if RG3 is your quarterback of the future. So I feel like I hate to, you know, tell Cleveland Browns fans this, but once again, you know, I consider them losers here because, you know, you don't get too many opportunities to draft a franchise quarterback. So they traded out of that slot, and they still don't have a guy to lead this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Just round and round it goes in Cleveland. What'd you think of the Panthers' work?
Well, you know, I don't have the draft in front of me. You know, it's been a whirlwind doing the different and everything like that. But, you know, I'm having trouble, to be honest, off the top of my head. I don't have it here in front of me, but we can rattle off some names and I can tell you my perspective.
Yeah. Hang on. I'll refresh your memory here.
Well,
I know it's tough when
I
you got so many.
Yeah.
Of course, they took Butler, defensive tackle out of Louisiana Tech in the first round, and then they went. Then they went DB crazy. Bradbury out of Samford, Worley, the cornerback out of West Virginia, and Zach Sanchez out of Oklahoma. So it looks like they're looking for somebody to replace Josh Norman.
Yeah, you know, and I like all three of those guys bring something different to the table. I mean, Bradbury's a guy who really impressed at his pro day, and then again at the All-Star circuit. You talk about, you know, the way the NFL is trending towards bigger, taller, faster corners. You know, Bradbury actually has experience at safety and cornerback. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of moved him around like a chess piece. Of course, Worley, I believe they traded up to get that pick. And, you know, there's some questions there off the field. I think, you know, maybe they did their due diligence and homework there, so they felt comfortable enough with that one. And then Zach Sanchez, you talk about a playmaker at Oklahoma. All this kid did was make plays. Somebody who, you know, had a handful of interceptions, can also lay the lumber a little bit. You watch some of his film. He comes across the middle, makes some nice hits. So you take those three guys now, you plug them into the equation, and you'll definitely find somebody who can replace Josh Norman and, you know, maybe a little bit overrated in that system. And you mentioned the Vernon Butler kid out of Louisiana Tech. A lot of people feel like he's a 3-down player coming out of that small school. product for a small school prospect and somebody who I think is going to contribute immediately on that defensive front.
You know, the Rams, number one, they go with the quarterback Goff. They later took Pharaoh Cooper out of South Carolina. They took Tamark Hemingway, tight end out of South Carolina State. So we've got some ties to our state to them. But just reading some of the reviews, people aren't real crazy overall about what the Rams did. What about you?
Well, you know, I mean, it's all going to come down to Jared Goff, right? If he's not successful, then this draft wasn't successful. But, you know, they traded up and got their, you know, franchise quarterback, quote unquote. So, you know, again, rare opportunity. Got to, you know, pick your guy. If they're all in on Goff, so be it. But you talk about, you know, Pharaoh Cooper there. They have a guy, Stedman Bailey, coming off an injury where they don't really know what they're going to get. So, he has an opportunity to come in and make an instant impact in that slot receiver type of role. And, you know, you talk about Tamark Hemingway. I was kind of surprised that he was selected ahead of Jarrell Adams. You know, I had Adams ahead of him on my draft board. But, you know, you take a look at what he did. I think he was at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, had an impressive week of practice there. Still a little bit raw, a developmental type prospect, but not too many tight ends went in this draft class. So, you know, they lost a tight end, I believe, in free agency. They had a need there. And, you know, now they got a guy that can kind of plug into their system for a couple of years. And, you know, maybe down the road, 2-3 years, he becomes a starter.
Yeah. You know, I don't claim to be a draft analyst or an expert like you are by any means, but I was a little bit surprised that, especially when it came to a team that needed a corner in the first round, the Steelers passed on Mackenzie Alexander to take Artie Burns from Miami. What compare those two, Alexander and Burns? And if you're sitting in the chair there with the Steelers, what would you have done?
Yeah, that was a surprise pick, seeing Artie Burns go that high. I mean, I had both of those guys in the second round range. I think they're very similar in skill set, actually. So, you know, it's kind of pick your flavor type of deal. And you know, Burns is a guy that was a fast riser leading up to the draft. Obviously, had one of the fastest 40-yard dash times. And you know, we saw McKenzie kind of sliding leading up to the draft. You heard that he might fall. A lot of teams, you know, falling out of love because of his height. But again, you take a look at Burns, similar type of stature. And, you know, Pittsburgh Steelers did need some help in the secondary there. They're very thin in that secondary position. So I guess they felt like there was a run on cornerbacks there in the first round, and they had to, you know, address that situation. So, you know, I guess I understand it. You know, he could play inside, he could play outside, be an eventual starter, maybe compete for a starting job from day one. I would have maybe, you know, took a look at the safety, but at that point, a couple of safeties went pretty high off the board as well. But, you know, secondary was a major need there, and they plugged the hole.
Let me mention real quick, Clemson has gone on to beat Florida State 7-3, and Krall does get the win to improve to 7-1. All right, we got a little less than a minute. 2017, I've already seen, you know, the mock draft on CBSSports.com coming out, and they've got Deshaun Watson number one at this particular time. You think Watson has the staying power to be the number one guy in the draft next year?
It's a possibility, and, you know, it'll be a target on his back after the season he had, but you like to see him develop a little bit more in the pocket game. Has pretty good awareness in the pocket, but you want to see him kind of, you know, again, develop and read through those progressions. I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be probably between him and Chad Kelly from Ole Miss in regards to the top quarterback prospect. But don't be surprised if a kid like a Luke Falk out of Washington or B.J. Beathard over at Iowa also emerges. We saw a guy like Carson Wentz come out of nowhere this year. So the quarterback situation is still always the hardest one to judge and gauge with the college prospects, and it'll be another year of fun to see how that unfolds.
Rick, we thank you so much. Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible. And go on vacation for a little while, will you? We'll be right back. Terrific win for Clemson today up at Doug Kingsmore. 7-3 the final, 7-12-1 for the Tigers. They leave 12, 3-8-2 for Florida State. They leave 6. Winning pitcher Pat Krall, 7-1. And some of the details for the Tigers, offensively and pitching. Pender had 2 hits, 2 RBIs. Beer had 2 hits, 3 RBIs. Roman had 2 RBIs, no hits. Wilson had 2 hits and 1 RBI. The 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th place hitters for the Tigers all came through. Well, Cox did not, but the other 3 did. They had 6 hits from that portion of their lineup, so the bottom part of their lineup was quite good today. Schnell started, went 2 innings, allowed 2 earned runs, 5 hits, did not strike out anybody. He walked 1. Krall came in and went the last 7 innings. He ended up throwing – how many pitches did we say he had left in his arm? He was at 80 – what was it at the end of 8 innings?
82.
Was he at 81? He ended up throwing 85 pitches. So he really got through the 9th efficiently. I have to look at that. 7 innings for him, 3 hits, a walk, 8 strikeouts, a wild pitch. He gets the win. His ERA drops to 0.68. That's good in anybody's league.
Yes.
Let's see, in the 9th inning, what did Florida State do? Wells lined out to left field. Trueluck struck out swinging. Graganella struck out swinging. So he had 2 strikeouts and a flyout. So very little work for him, and the Tigers win it 7-3. So that's a good win for Monty Lee. They win that series 2 out of 3. They've had, we were talking off air, they certainly have had Florida State's number here of late. Clemson has beat them twice last year down in Tallahassee.
Right.
They only played twice. I guess the third game must have been rained out, but a really good win for Clemson. I wanted to look ahead for the Tigers to see what they've got coming up now. After taking care of Florida State, they get Furman at home on Wednesday night. And then 3 with NC State this weekend. Then 2 with the College of Charleston after that. Then the Tigers only have 1 more home game, the 17th against Charleston Southern. They have 3 at Georgia Southern and 3 at Notre Dame. So 6 league games left for Clemson, NC State, and Notre Dame. And shoot, if you can beat Florida State 2 out of 3 at home, there's no reason to think you can't beat NC State 2 out of 3 at home.
NC State is a tough team, though. They're a really tough, resourceful team. They play them in Raleigh.
No, in Clemson.
Okay,
at Doug
yeah.
Kingsmore.
The key right now is to take the pressure off their pitching staff. Is Clemson has to get some early leads. This recurring theme of falling behind and having to catch up, that puts a lot of pressure on your pitching staff.
Well, the Tigers improved to 11-13 with this win, and I can't do the percentages in my head real quick. Notre Dame, all right, Pro, this is why we call you the Pro. So Clemson's 11-13, Notre Dame is 9-10, and Wake Forest is 10-11. So I don't guess the Tigers climb past either of those other 2 teams percentage-wise.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And anytime you're low on the totem pole in the loss column, that hurts because that's something you can't
make up.
Yeah.
Okay, so good win for Clemson today, and we'll have post-game react from Monty Lee and the Tigers on our website a little bit later on, sportstalksc.com. You can catch that there. And tomorrow night we'll hear from Chad Holbrook. He'll talk about the weekend past with the Gamecocks and splitting those 2 games with Florida. But, the win is great and the loss was tough, but the win was great. But just the performance overall of his team. It was 2 high-level teams playing at a high level. Not a lot of errors, not a lot of mental mistakes, things of that nature. Cutoff throws were made, extra bases were taken, and the pitching on both sides was just superb for the most part.
And I would tell Gene Cohn one thing that Hank Aaron always said, because as I said before, there was that in Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium when Pete Rose made a spectacular catch and banged into the fence almost knocked himself out. Hank makes a catch similar, but he runs to the fence and leans against it and makes the catch. And he said, well, why do you do things like that, Hank? He said, because they pay me to play 162 games, not to run into the fence and get injured, which Cole almost did the other day again.
Yeah, he went head first into the fence. They're trying to run down a fly ball. He's now batting .382 on the season. Gene Cone having a spectacular year. Okay, another offer from Clemson goes out tonight. Matthew Jones, Brooklyn, New York 2018 class. He gets an offer from the Tigers, 6'4", 300 pounds. He's a big guy, big-time recruit, Alabama, Ohio State. A couple of the others who have offered him. So the recruiting continues here in the spring with some offers going out. Seems like the weekend for South Carolina went extremely well, that the cookout format, the socialization approach, relationship building, that sort of thing, and not being overpowering with the recruiting pressure, worked to the Gamecocks' favor. They did some kooky things. They had a dunk tank, and Muschamp got in there, and they dunked him. They had a scavenger hunt on campus, where the players had to go around and finding things based on, I guess, certain clues, things of that nature. All about building those relationships and getting to know one another. And I think it paid off. They got 2 commitments from 2 what appear to be good players, and they've positioned themselves well with some others, especially here in the state. It's starting to pay off, as you heard our recruiting report earlier. I mean, right now, based on the information we see, the Gamecocks would lead for Brad Johnson. They would lead for Trey Lawson. They would lead for Shi Smith right here in the state. They're in the hunt very much with Clemson for Trey Smith. So the emphasis on the in-state recruiting for South Carolina is starting to pay off and will pay off with commitments from these guys. Oh, Jay Ulrich. Even though he's not calling a leader out, I'm sure that South Carolina has to be at the top of his list.
That's a quarterback from Wren.
Mm-hmm. So they have positioned themselves quite well here early on. And meantime, Clemson continues to do its thing. The Tigers are, I think they see themselves recruiting at a different level right now, and basically going hard after the national recruit at nearly every position. bypassing the in-state recruit for a more highly regarded national prospect. And the Tigers feel like they're at that level where, you know, they stand toe-to-toe with Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Southern Cal in attracting the top of the top national guy. If you get those guys, that'll work out well for you. You have to be careful, though, that you do not cut off your nose to spite your face. You always have to watch your backyard and make sure that your neighbors are happy. And, you know, if you're not careful, South Carolina's going to slip in there, develop these stronger relationships, and they will be the first thought of the in-state coaches and players when it comes to where I want to go to college.
Well, yeah, I know it's a difficult thing to follow, but I think Clemson right now looks as if they've got their quarterback for one more year, and they're looking to reload for a championship run. I think that's the key to the immediate recruiting needs.
Braves are losing. How bad?
4-0. They gave up 3 solo homers in the bottom of the first inning.
Hawks are losing 2. Thank you, Carson Mason. Great job. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Let me know when you're ready. We'll record. Let's kill your video.